for you.
Yeah, delegate.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only way Jake Delhomme made it to the Super Bowl, right? I mean, come
Right.
on.
Well, when you got Musin Muhammad and Steve Smith and Stephen Davis, I would think that would be pretty good delegation. And Wesley Walls, I think, was still on that team too. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I'd delegate to those guys all day long.
exactly. This is a nice job throwing an in-breaking route. I think that's a great evaluating tool.
Okay.
Can you throw horizontal accuracy is important, meaning, you've got to pick up the receiver moving laterally across the field well. And what's awesome here is you can see on the drop, his eyes are down the middle of the field. He reads his defender key, whether it be the free safety, vacates the middle of the field, checks back down underneath, and hits the receiver for a dime. I mean, it's a great play.
Nice.
Gets back in the flow again. That's the this is interesting play too. I think here's where you can see how he's not explosive outside the pocket. I mean, that guy's closing on him quickly, but an off. I thought the thing about Jameis he almost always looks like he's almost falling over.
Right.
Got kind of these heavy feet to him, but at the same standpoint, he never fully does, and he manages to, except for that one play against Oregon. But he does a great job of delivering a crossbody velocity here, giving the receiver a chance to make a play.
Yeah,
You know,
and
that's the extension right there that makes it happen.
yeah, I mean, in contrast, I'm watching Cody Fajardo this morning, and I've watched him, and I've seen him kind of falling over a good bit in terms of when he's moving to a certain direction, and you can see his
Yeah,
body almost tipping over in dramatic fashion on a lot of the throws that he makes.
absolutely. Uh-huh. All right, now this is it. This is it again. So this is where you got to give him something else. We've run this play. We run this concept, a variation of some kind of spacing concept underneath. There's not enough there. This is a late quarter adjustment here, and he's trusting his arm a little too much here, and there's no reason to throw this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like, where would he give him something else? Like from this snap, what would be a suggestion you would give?
Well, I think you look at his eyes straight off the snap of the football, and depending on if they're playing straight man, then they're going to be a little more, which they look like they're in more of a man technique here. But you've got to defenders are not. That's the great thing about the defense. It's chaotic. Guys cheat. And so right off the snap of the football, you're gonna it's directly take your eyes to it. He's on it. He is reading that defender, and if that defender is reading him, he kind of slow plays it and doesn't give him a clean read. Well, he still tries to force it in there, which is relatively easy. By now, where you look, the defender still has cushion. If the defender has cushion at this point, let's move on. There's got to be another read here we can go to, and there it is. Absolutely. Let's go take the check down. Right there. Boom. Flip the hips, make the throw. Well, throw
Yeah,
it away. Throw it away. He trusts his tight end though. That guy's pretty freaking good.
yeah, I like O'Leary. He's a
Yeah.
fun player.
All right. So interesting thing, yeah, and this is where you can see again he's just locked on in this game. What mechanically here's something we can kind of pick on. See how he gets very tall.
Yes.
Is extreme, and so an old school mentality is get stand up, stand tall in the pocket, stand tall in the pocket. Well, I think Drew Brees has blown that to pieces. You stand tall with your upper body, but you have to have a load in your lower body. You've got to have knee bend. So now you can see him drop into his throw, which is now that beautiful 6'3" and a half frame turns into 5'11". Regardless of the throw decision here, mechanically that's something that's got to change because you baseball high to low, football low to high. You got to think of it that way.
And you see that with Breeze. You see the low to high.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I never really thought about it from that standpoint, but yeah, you see he's so graphically low to high when you watch him play.
Exactly, and this is just a backside safety reading his giveaway here, and just locked on this game. This is again why you look at this as a scout and or as a coach, and I think you go, you know, yeah, there's fundamental things we can improve. And the classic fumble in this play, that's great, and they give it right back to Florida State.
that's just
Great.
that's a killer.
Yeah, go down. But yeah, this is just a function of how he moves through the play. But I think it's what makes him great about you watch through this game, he manages to make it happen at the end where it counts. So it comes back and dagger to the heart. Not afraid. How do you respond? How do you respond? And I think this is Jameis to a T right here. It's almost, you got those guys that are so confident and they're too. I got to choose my words wisely here, but they're so.
They have an unerring belief. Yeah, oblivious.
Yes. Yeah, like to the fact where maybe you shouldn't take this shot, or maybe you shouldn't do this. Be like, nope. You always. I respect the quarterback that throws 3 picks and comes back and wins the game. I like that, and I think that kind of goes with the gunslinger mentality, so to say.
See,
the throw that might lose the game for you is going to be the one that wins the game for you later on.
I'm right there with you. I'm a play-to-win guy. You play the game to win. You don't play not to lose. And I just think that you have to certainly know a balance between stupidity or recklessness, and aggressiveness. But I think the Seahawks do a great job of being aggressive, as a team.
Yeah.
They commit a lot of penalties. I think I've written about this before, but they commit a lot of penalties. They lead the league in penalties. But you don't see guys getting benched for making mistakes. You see guys being allowed to try and do the same things, and they put them in position to win, even if it's a guy who's off the bench as a role player. Chris Matthews in the Super Bowl catching those types of passes because they thought it would be a good matchup. They weren't like, well, he hasn't done that in the game yet. Let's not put him in there. No,
right.
We know this is why we got him, so we're gonna give him a try. And if he screws it up, we're gonna keep going to him. It's okay.
It's exactly right. You gotta trust your.
That just breeds camaraderie with your players and coaches too. They trust your coaches to know that you can try your best and you're not going to get demoted or benched because you made an error on the field through effort.
Exactly, and as a quarterback, that's the one thing that always blew my mind is guys that coach Q's. I always feared throwing that interception, and sometimes that's the worst thing you can do for your quarterback. You got to be their best bud on game day. Throw a pick, hey man, I trust you. You're gonna make a play. Throw another pick, I still trust you.
Yeah, have the worst game of your life in the NFC Championship game for 3.5 quarters, and then come through at the end of that game. I would say that's trusting a guy.
Exactly. This is Jameis man strength here. This is an incredible Hulk play right there. This is what you love about him. Just falling, just bumbling and crashing through and stays up.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 5 men coming.
Delayed blitz, avoids the defender and just gets it out. Gotta love it. Make a play when it counts.
He reminds me a lot of Steve McNair, like in McNair's later years, when McNair wasn't quite the dynamic athlete he once was, but could still do that kind of stuff. Yeah,
totally, absolutely.
So while I got you mentioned Manziel. So I'm curious.
Yeah.
One of the theories I've had about a player like him is that because he's such an improviser and a not off script type of play guy, I've always kind of had this theory that guys like that who get into a high level football, you have to give them a long enough leash to let them figure out what they can and can't do, because they have to adjust to the speed and complexity of the game. But if you try and turn them into task oriented quarterbacks when they're not really that task oriented at all, you're basically putting in a guy that you didn't draft.
Yeah. I think this is part of I don't know if it's a problem, but this is the NFL. So the NFL with free agency is just recycled, right? It's the West Coast offense versions of it. You know, the Patriots are a little unique in comparison to other programs, but you know, you've still got Norv Turner running the number system, 689 Y flat. The NFL is West Coast based, you know, timed passing game with either, you know, gap scheme or zone scheme run plays. So a guy like Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M, you know, his responsibilities four down to Mike, you know, maybe make the back go from my right to the left. And if they bring too many, he'll probably take care of it for us with his feet, right?
Right.
That's his improvisation. Get the ball out of your hands quick, you know, a lot of bubbles, a lot of quick screens. And then, you know, we'll take Johnny versus a linebacker all day long. So in the NFL, you know, you've got to ID the mic, you got to slide your protection, you got to talk to your lineman, you've got to understand the concepts of your play. And for a guy like Johnny, I think there's an incubation period that needs to happen over a longer period. I mean, Steve Young sat for 8 years before he started. You know, guys sit and need that time to learn if they're going to plug and play into the West Coast offense. And then you kind of like look at Michael Vick, right? You know, he's a guy that, in my opinion, was almost as explosive, if not more explosive than Johnny Manziel. He was the Johnny Manziel before Johnny. You know, he just reacted. But then the NFL has this amazing way of getting film on you and then figuring out, okay, if you're a running quarterback, you know, we're going to spy, we're going to contain, we're going to roll, we're going to flush you to your bad side. And once they figure that out, they crack your code. Now you have to be a quarterback again. And I think that's part of the problem. You know, in college, you know, they just don't have that time to kind of program and teach and adjust to those types of players.
Yeah.
And the NFL, they do. They got all the time in the world. You remember Terrell Pryor came on and had that amazing like 6-game.
Yeah.
He wasn't the best quarterback there by far.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Flynn and Matt McGloin by all means should have been starting, but they didn't have an O-line, and so you know it was okay. If my first guy's not open, I'm going to run around until something happens. But eventually they figure it out. They adjust. The defenses adjust, and then it went away.
Yeah.
That's what happens. It's
I
what
mean,
happens.
I think that you definitely see that. I mean, it explains guys like having seasons like Derek Anderson, you know, or
Yeah.
you know, guys who have one great season and then they're figured out a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
I think Nick Foles got figured out a little bit, you know. So
Yeah.
it's, you know, that's a
You got to stay ahead of the curve, man. I mean, there's a reason why, you know, guys like Peyton and Brady are the least blitzed quarterbacks in the NFL because they make you pay for it, you know. Oh,
so close.
that's a yeah, that's such a good shot though. I like that. I mean, I like that throw. I like where he's going with it.
And
I
see, what
think
I love about this show and having you on is you're a guy who spends your days refining the smallest techniques of players, and
yep.
you're watching something like that, and you're not nitpicking. You know,
Yeah,
there's a time to do that, but this isn't the time.
absolutely. There's not, man. You know, I train in the off season. Everything is performance based. How did the ball get there? But you get to the season, it's did the ball get there or not? It's results based, and I think you have to be able to separate those two because you know quarterbacks. If you're thinking about your freaking stride and on 4th and 3, we got problems.
Yeah, you're done. You
Yeah.
know.
Great patience on the screen there. You know, nice job letting things develop. This the great thing about you know him is there's no he plays at the speed that's necessary. I mean, I think you look at Rodgers kind of drop it at an interesting tempo. You know, sometimes it drops fast, sometimes it's slow. That's that internal DNA, that timeline, understanding. Okay, on this, they know the cheat codes for every play.
Yeah,
They understand
you
that they've got
dictate it. You're dictating what the action.
exactly, exactly. Let's see what happens with this one. Oh, this is impressive to me. I mean, I think um, where you can see the subtle. For a quarterback, the most difficult thing to do at the top of your drop. So when he moves back here, um, right here. Okay, so he's got a pocket. Everything's there. There doesn't look like anything's open. He's doing a good job being patient. One of the most difficult things to do is regress, is to actually move backwards and then throw with any kind of velocity. And you'll kind of see here as the line starts to collapse a little bit, the edge pressure starts to come. Should he step up into it? A stronger runner probably darts through that gap, but he knows hey, I'm 4'9", 40 guy. Yeah, exactly. So he's going to stand back there. He's going to extend the play by sitting back. And listen, there's no real other way to be able to make this type of throw down the field. You have to sink those hips. You've got to you have to extend the length of your release on the back end to generate some force. And then look at the no stride here, almost how narrow the feet are. This is all core torque and arm speed, right? Because you can't stride into it because you're moving backwards. And he managed to throw the ball from the 25-yard line and put it in a place where it's yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a 35-yard throw on a rope. That's only it's not going to be a pick. So that's an impressive trait there. I think you look for.
And if he truly gets in shape and stays in shape and continues to get in better shape, that will probably help. Yeah,
he'll make that throw. I think this is the next play here where there's a mechanical breakdown on this one. No, this is not it. Oh, this is where he throws a touchdown.
Fading away.
Yeah, look at this. I mean, he threw off his back foot. Yes, that's all he could do. I mean, that's again right. One of those ones where.
Yeah. What more do you want?
What else do you want? Yeah. Well, what do you want, right? So, phenomenal job protecting himself too, turning the back to the defender after the throw. You can't throw a better ball than that. That's an NFL throw right there.
Yeah, these are the kinds of plays like him rolling right, rolling left, lofting the ball over, putting some power on it. It's like he makes all the advanced throws that you want to see.
We'll teach him the rest, right? I mean, that's what the NFL guy's looking at. Listen, he's doing this. We're all right. Look at that. Back pedal, back foot, off balance.
That's how they felt about Jay Cutler. I know that's how they felt about Jay Cutler. Yeah. I mean, I remember studying Jay Cutler and thinking, this is the best quarterback in this class. This guy's doing phenomenal things with a football, and he still does. I still think to this day of when he first got to Chicago and they were playing Detroit with Sue, and I think Fairley was still healthy at that time, and they were getting just clobbered, and he had, I think, Roy Williams, who at this point had not been the Roy Williams he was in Dallas, and early in his career, and he was making throws and putting it on receivers under pressure that I was just thinking, this is one of the most incredible displays of just arm talent throwing I have seen in quite a long time. No, it's just not getting the results.
Exactly. That's the thing, and I think he'll still be able to. I feel like he's a guy that he's just got to get the right staff. Look at this ball. Now, here's where I give you one. I'll be a little nitpicky on this one. So,
okay.
This is where you see, I think, the chest press and the early left side opening up, and giving a little bit of it. So watch how he'll kind of. That's not a bad position to be in right there. Legs are loaded. The base is not too wide, but look at the rip of the left side opening too fast. There's this element of just and then the stride stinking out a little too wide away from his body again, which is kind of what you saw all year round. And this ball, I think you got to complete this one. It's not an easy throw, but that's a completion. He got his hands on it. That's a tough catch to make, accelerating to the sideline that fast. So I think this is one mechanically you see where if you can tighten up his stride and control that left side a little bit better, this is a completion he makes easier.
Now, would the ball come out a little lower as a result of that?
Absolutely. So you think of it like when the left side opens early, the arm is going to be late coming through, and late generally means high right or just high. So the ball for a right-handed quarterback, it's going to sail to the right. It's going to be high. It's like his arm can't catch up with the location because the the receiver's moving to the left, so you have to get your arm through. You've got to accelerate it through fast on that, and it's tough for him to do.
Excellent. That's excellent. That confirms some things for me too, so that's good.
Good, good.
I'm sitting here thinking that seems to make sense as I'm looking at it, but I've never really had anyone
Yeah.
explain that, so that's great.
Good job here, and this is what you pay backup quarterbacks to do. Check down.
Yeah.
Be patient. The flat defender drops, comes down.
Decent touch too.
Yeah, exactly. And then let your guy do his thing. First down. Check downs for first downs, man. This guy just wants to damage people. I like that. Interesting. Yeah. I think that's a pretty another impressive off balance back. Can he navigate himself in the pocket maybe a little bit better to give himself some more room? You can see what happens here. There's actually a protection breakdown.
Yeah.
We miss. He kind of gets lost. So this is a really good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got Max protect. So in his head he's thinking, I'm good. I'm good.
And then,
right?
whoops, he got distracted by the outside man, the tight end did.
Exactly. And so, given the situation, the fact that the ball actually hits the receiver's hands, and he has to throw it over that guy, I mean, that's a freaking pretty impressive throw right there. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, it looks like he's swinging a sword in a fencing match more than he's throwing a football with this front leg extended, leaning back.
Yep. So what he uses here, and this is an interesting technique. I think Brett Favre was a big time on this. You saw Brett Favre would almost ricochet away from his throws all the time. The head would snap and the hips would go back. So Brett Favre basically played the game. He didn't like to get hit. What happens here is Jameis pulls his hips away from the throw, which creates a whip effect with the arm. So it's like a crack away. Gives him that force generated enough to get that ball out of his hand, because that's a difficult throw to make with any kind of force. You think about it, if your hips move away rapidly, if the arm's moving forward, it increases the speed of the arm, which gives him more velocity to be able to get that ball out.
And that's something that's learned right there?
You can help teach it. Some guys can do it. I think you look at quarterbacks to whether they have a great awareness and they have great understanding. I think Jameis has great awareness of what he's doing. Does he understand how he does it half the time? Probably not. And I think that's where coaching comes in. Tom Brady spends his offseason refining his mechanics. He's trying to understand how things happen for him. So once you understand how your throw happens and why you have errors, why you have success, you add awareness to that. You get guys that can self-correct on the fly. They can make adjustments to their mechanics. They know what's wrong when it's right.
They can replicate things too and pull it up out of a file.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because I can imagine if someone doesn't know what they're doing, they do that one play, they might not be able to do that again. But if they're watching the film and studying and learning how to do it, then they're like, I can call this up.
And you do it like the way I describe throws that you make. This throw actually is real interesting. This is such this
looks like something that you were teaching people on one of your promo videos recently.
Yeah, exact crossbody throws, right? I mean, these are throws that you get yelled at for making, but the reality is they win games. And this is such a bad decision. But you look at it, you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But the fact that he makes this throw, and then the guy that takes it, I think he takes it for 6. That we were talking about earlier, this is the thing that loses the game for you, and then it wins his confidence in his arm is like, I can do anything. And is this luck? Sure thing. But it certainly impacts the result of this game. I mean, look at this.
Yeah.
So,
and we're gonna see. I know they got to show an end zone angle of this.
Yeah, you don't go, okay, Jameis, we want you to. They didn't do it.
I'll get this a little closer one more time, though.
I can't tell if it goes through the defenders or whatever he does, but it is just,
I think
yeah.
it goes. I
He
think it
ran
goes behind.
behind and he ran into the guy. It's brilliant. I
Wow.
mean, yeah, I think in the film room afterwards, you just look at him and go, uh,
Yeah.
great play, bud. Don't do it again. Don't do it again.
And
It's
he's not going to
crazy.
listen. I mean,
No, he's
not
not.
because
He's
it's
not.
him. I'm saying, like, I'm sorry if I'm, if you're like the guys we talked about, if you're Stafford, Cutler, Rogers, Favre,
Yeah,
and you have an arm that you can whip it around like this, you're not going to listen.
that's why you. That's why you pay him, man. That's why you pay him.
Yeah, that's how I got here.
Yeah,
Tell me not to
little
do that.
slant arrow. Yeah, exactly. That's how that's
And that's the thing. Like, I think people also overblow the immaturity thing on the field because, that Oregon game where he comes in and you hear and you see the coach basically telling him to calm down,
yeah.
and yelling at him. That's just, I mean, you
That's
actually want to have a player that coach can yell at you
I
and you can give it right
love
back and just
I
be
love
like,
saltiness, man. I call it, yeah, so I like my quarterbacks to be a little salty.
yeah,
I love it when Tom Brady and who was Tom Brady and was it O'Brien, the head
yeah,
coach for Texas. I love it when they're just screaming at each other on the sideline. I think that's such a you want a quarterback that you can scream at and go, and he just whatever shakes it off.
yeah.
Some guys you can't in high school and stuff, but yeah, that's totally blown out of
But
proportion.
yeah, but at this level, it's kind of like, look, you need someone sometimes to tell you when things are going crazy that,
Yeah,
to snap you out of it. And you don't have to be the yeller screamer guy, and you don't have to be the guy that's going to yell and scream back. You could be Russell Wilson where things are down and just go, tell Pete Carroll in your first game that you're down and go, we're down by X and it's the second half and this is my first start, and where else would I rather be, And Pete Carroll look at him like you are crazy. But I mean, you need to have a little bit of that. You have to have that daring, however you express it. You have to have that bravado.
exactly. I think it's a good example here of one of those forced throws, but he gets it there.
Yeah.
Um, and triple coverage, stares it down. Another one with the guys around his hips, gets the ball out of bounds.
And just that's a mature play, and the fact that you see mature plays like that every game, even when you see immature plays, to me, the presence of the mature plays overrides the presence of the immature plays to an
No
extent.
doubt. Exactly. Because the ego of an NFL coach is that we can fix that. And, they can be right sometimes, most of the time.
That was close for a crazy
Yeah,
throw.
yeah, yeah. That's one of those ones where, what are we down? 8 minutes left, down by three. You know, I see
That's
what
a
he's trying to do.
yeah.
Yeah, but you got to respect that he puts it only where one guy can get it. Um, I think sometimes with quarterbacks, and I have to ask them when I analyze their film, sometimes you got to ask them, like, hey, did you really mean to make that throw? Like, because sometimes there's things they do that just shouldn't probably be thrown, but they complete it. And a lot of the times the answer is, yeah, I meant to make that. I mean, every confident quarterback's probably going to give you that answer. Now, there we go. A little underthrown there.
Okay. Here we go. Should be this next one coming up. All right, here we go.
So we got one high safety. What do we
Oh,
got?
this is the wrong
Oh,
one.
that's
Okay.
okay.
It's this one.
Good play, though.
I was
Yep.
like, yeah,
Nice.
where's Green? I'm like, Green's down at the bottom. Here we go. Here's Green.
Okay, so safety
Rotating.
rotates down early. Great job picking it up. Um, you got your guy out there, inside leverage, lets it go early, just underthrows, and it's kind of off his. I mean, it's close to being a completion, but it gives the DB enough time to. So it's a good identification. Let's see, we get pressure, four-man rush. Yeah, we get inside pressure. So, I get it. it's one of those things where, hey, we need to give Jameis the time to make this throw. Yeah, I think this is one of those things where that core stability, that core strength, and off-season conditioning that I feel like he needs a little bit is going to be able to help give him that little extra juice. Because I mean, he's throwing this from the 42-yard line
Yeah.
with no considerable momentum going forward.
And it's basically a 26-yard throw, or 36-yard throw.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough deal there. So it gives him a chance, but
and this is very enlightening to think about because you hear quotes in the media from coaches, and they'll say, well, you add a little weight to him, you give him a little muscle, but you don't really hear the specifically point by point how this works. And it's all really kind of coming here together with how you'd explain this, that you see these are the types of throws of how they will be impacted. These are types of plays that are okay. These are the ones that aren't okay. This is why this is why teams project that they can do something with the player. Here's where it's probably pretty, bang on correct that they can do that, and here's where it's a little iffy, but they're still going to think that way.
Absolutely. And I think, when you package, when you break things down play by play, I think when you send film to coaches, you're sending them highlight film, and for guys that are going to make their name by throwing the football and moving them, not dual threat quarterbacks where it's just not evident how amazing they are. When you go see this in person and kind of package it as one event, then it becomes even more impressive, with all the impact of the stress of the game, how the momentum is changing, and all the other stresses that are put on based on the opponent, et cetera. You put it together. I think that's where you see guys like Jameis, just take it to another level. He's not fazed by any of that stuff. He just doesn't faze him at all.
So what do you feel about, you talked about quarterbacks where in a lot of situations where that would make sense for them to be incubated for a while, and I'm a big proponent of where I wish that the NFL would do that far more often than they have. But let me see what's going on here with this real quick. This might be the end of that tape. Let's see if that was. Yeah, I believe it was. Okay. So we're good there.
Okay.
So let me ask you, just a couple of things with this. Talking about quarterbacks being incubated and that kind of thing. In the ideal world, not the NFL world, but the ideal world, would Jameis Winston be a first-round pick in your estimation, based on if he could have a couple of years to develop?
Yeah. I mean, yes. I think he's a guy that where you look at from now, with his ability to pull out every game for him this year, regardless of what situation he may have put them in. Not all those things are going to be his fault all the time, but he's a guy you look at. He's got the traits that you look for, to where I would draft him in the first round, and I'd love to sit him behind someone that's kind of. I mean, you look at the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers situation. I feel like that was frustrating for Aaron Rodgers, but can you argue that it wasn't maybe the best thing that could have happened to him? I mean, how great was that? You see, I could imagine there's an element of Winston's game which I see kind of similar to the way Tom Brady plays from the pocket. Obviously, Winston can move a lot better and is a lot stronger physically, bigger frame, but just kind of making some different variations in touch and velocity and throws. He's a more athletic version, but I could see sitting at the Patriots would be unbelievable for that guy for 3 years under the tutelage of the staff there. But that's not going to happen. So he's got to go somewhere where he's probably, and is that the right thing to do in the NFL? I don't know that it is. I don't. Manning made it happen, but for every one that does, there's one that doesn't. So I feel like that learning curve is so important.
I'm right there with you. I just think of the players who did learn, and it's like Brady learned, Favre had
Yeah.
time, even though
Yeah.
it was for different reasons. But
Yeah.
McNair had time. You look at very few guys like Luck, Wilson, and Manning kind of ruined
Yeah.
it a little bit. So
Right. Right. Well, I think if you look at it too, though, Luck, the class with Luck, RG3, and Wilson. What's interesting about those three is I think Luck there was kind of Luck up here, and he was like the first overall pick, and then there really should have been 2 rounds between. I mean, there was, but there wasn't like they weren't 1, 2, and 3. It was 1, 2, and there was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 between Wilson. I think Wilson's phenomenal, and then RG3's first season. What was so impressive about Luck was he did what he did without a running game. There was no running game, and I think the running game is so important in the NFL. Wilson, had beast mode up there, and Marshawn Lynch, right? RG3 had Pro Bowl Alfred Morris, right? So that makes such a difference. With Wilson manages the game so well, and his athletic ability is so impressive. But what Luck did, that's a pretty amazing job, and I think that that's why that guy's going to be, Rodgers, Luck. Those words will go together pretty well here pretty soon. He's a couple picks away from just being top 3 guy.
great. Well, Will, is there anything that
Yeah.
you'd like to add, or you'd like to tell anybody about, about the work you do and where they can find you?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, once again, man, thank you so much for having me on. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It was real fun talking ball. Um, Located in Northern California, we have a quarterback specific training facility. We train all types of athletes at all levels, and we consult with coaches and work just as much with coaches trying to help coach their quarterbacks better. So we have the website, therangetraining.com. Check us out, shoot us an email, and always looking to help and connect with people out there that want to learn more, whether it's about how to hold a football, or how to move through a progression, or whatever it may be. So how to throw under pressure, and we always teach how to throw off your back foot real well too. So
Sweet.
yeah.
Well,
Love all the bad stuff, man. I appreciate
yeah.
it though.
No, definitely. Well, this was great, and we'd definitely love to have you on again when you have the time. I know
Totally.
certainly you have probably a bigger season at certain points of the year than others.
Gets
So
a little crazy. Yep.
yeah,
But we'll definitely connect again. I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, I'd love to be back.
sounds good. Thanks again, folks, and for the RSP Film Room, you guys have a good afternoon.